Welcome back, everyone. I am here with the Zen Girl. Right, and that's where you can find her. We're at Moe Startup 2014, this is the second day. It's been a fabulous program. And Stacy Conlon actually put everyone in the right frame of mind this morning by doing a 10-minute guided meditation. And we're here to talk about the work that she does at the intersection of mindfulness and marketing, and more importantly, how meditation kind of impacts our brain. So Stacy, first of all, great job this morning.
Thank you so much.
Got us all in a peaceful frame of mind to sit in a conference for 12 hours. Mm-hmm. But I'm really curious, as I was really contemplating our conversation, one of the first things that popped up is building a company is really stressful, right? As you heard Ben just say, it's really hard. And stress is a topic that is on everybody's agenda. What have you learned this year that's maybe new about stress?
It's a very good question. Well, it's prevalent, and we see more and more, especially in the startup culture, that burnout is happening, and it's a real thing, and it's a real problem. But stress is something that is created in our minds and in our brains, in fact. And what we find is that, in terms of new research, actually, I just read a study yesterday that came out from Harvard 3 weeks ago that talked about, for the very first time, we are actually able to see that the gray matter in the brain can be altered with meditation. So in brief, that study was a control group who did not do any meditation, and another group who meditated for 8 weeks for an average of 27 minutes a day. And what they found at the end of the study was, after they did MRI brain scans, that the individuals who did meditate, the two areas of the brain related to self-awareness and to stress, the gray matter in the brain in those areas actually altered. So it was really, for the first time, we saw that the neuroplasticity in the brain, and meditation being a tool for that, actually literally works. We can change our neural pathways in our brain.
Well, I'm very appreciative, and I'm super excited about you bringing this thinking to this whole startup space. Do you feel like maybe that is the first step to help a lot of these founders out there at least get a handle on stress, because it happens every day?
It is. When I think about it, it's really it's a tool, just like anything else. So in the lean startup model, we look at the minimum viable product and that model as being a tool for our thinking mind and how things work. But meditation and mindfulness activities can really serve as a framework for our emotional mind, because what we think about becomes our reality, and what goes on in our minds creates our reality. So if we can kind of get underneath the day-to-day and take some time to step back, we get a lot of clarity, we can get a lot of peace of mind. And so when we connect to the work that we do every single day, coming from that place of a little bit more compassion or a little bit more self-awareness, we may have instances where we interact with somebody more positively. We might be more self-aware of our emotional reactions to things. So not taking it personally, perhaps letting it go a little bit. Our egos and our agenda may not take the front seat. So by using tools, mindfulness tools like meditation, it gives us the opportunity to self-reflect, to have a look, and to just be with the moment, be with what's here right now, and explore it, and not try to change it or judge it, but rather what's here now and what's coming up. Many of us, myself included, painful feelings, fears, anxieties, they pop up and they are there. We're human. That is always going to happen. So what I've learned is that it isn't about trying to push it aside or get rid of it, because you can't. In fact, the more you do that, the more it's going to rear its ugly head. We've all had that, where our brain just goes on overdrive. What we find is, if we can take a step back and look at it and just observe it for what it is without judgment, it tends to, at least in my experience, almost instantly relax a little bit, so I can observe it from an outsider.
You make it sound so easy, but I know
it's not.
It's really
it's not
hard.
At all.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
The intriguing thing about your work is it is at the intersection of mindfulness and marketing, which is really, there's not a whole lot of people who do that. How does that impact how you market?
Interesting. Well, what I find is, in marketing today, what can be really beneficial is coming from a place of a heart connection or an emotional connection, especially when I'm consulting with clients on their brand or their marketing strategy or what they should do. It's really easy to get caught up in what we think we should do, or our minds are kind of taking the front seat. What I notice with mindfulness practice, again, with that ability to kind of step back, it's coming at your marketing or how you want to communicate your brand to the world, coming from a place of heart, as a person, as being vulnerable, connecting, really getting to that engaged level. And I don't know if you've had this experience in social media, but I know I have when I've, posted something, say on Facebook or on Twitter, that was more promotional, or I was coming from a point of, hey, look at this, or click here, more of this kind of push, rather than telling a story. Kind of storytelling, coming from that place of heart, of connecting with other people, caring what it is that they're doing, and supporting them. And I find that by coming from that perspective, it shifts the thinking. So you're actually, it's more toward a pull marketing campaign is what I like to say. But really, it's about connecting with people authentically, and we can do that when we've practiced mindfulness. We can be aware that that's a possibility.
I don't know of a whole lot of people who like push marketing. I think we're inundated with push marketing. And the whole philosophy of Zen is about stripping away things to its essence. So when you think about marketing and you strip away all the things down, what is the essence of what you do with it?
Boy, that's a good question.
And notice the deep breath, right? That's something that we can all learn. That 1 second pause puts you in a whole different frame of mind.
Right. No, it does, and it allows me to kind of connect in with the real self, as opposed to maybe what I might be thinking. So I feel like you might have to ask the question again, because I got caught up so much of the moment.
I was talking about the whole process. The essence of Zen to me is about stripping away.
Yeah.
It's about taking things away as opposed to putting things in. So when I put that within the marketing context, what does that leave us with?
Sure. I feel like when we look at things through a more simplified lens, I actually recently read a book called Essentialism, which...
I have it on my Kindle. I've not read it, but I have it.
Wow. Yeah. I've read it twice, and I already know I need to read it a third time, because it's a mindset. It's the essentialist mindset, and it's a lens through which we see the world. And of course, connecting with Zen in my own self, I see a lot of correlation, and I'm actually excited on some trainings and workshops I can do around essentialist principles coming soon. But for now, when I think about that, what we can strip away, for example, I'll use myself. I have files and files of resources and Google documents and just things I've accumulated over the years because I want more knowledge. To me and my personality as well, when I can know more, when I have more information, I feel like I can do a better job. But what I've realized through the essentialist mindset is about what can I actually edit down? What can I strip away? What actually doesn't serve? And I think they call it kill your darlings. Yeah. It's that concept of, I might have had 10 great ideas in the last week, and it's about going back though to your journal or these notes and Google Docs that I take and go back and edit them down. So I almost feel like it's the discipline and the ability to kill your darlings. Perhaps you thought this was a really great idea, but you know what, when push comes to shove and you actually look at how this is going to apply or benefit or not benefit someone else, chances are, like the Pareto principle is going to apply. The 20% of the items on your list are probably going to bring 80% of the value. So what is that essential? What is that top 20%?
So when you're working with a spa or a wellness center on a marketing campaign, for example, and about bringing in new customers, not focused on kind of their existing portfolio of patients, what's your message to them?
Focus on your brand. Get down to the brand fundamentals. Who are you, and why do you matter? What's different about you in your marketplace? Competition is an important thing to look at in the sense of what is it that they do, but what is it that you do differently? And it's not necessarily better. It could be price, it could be location, but it's these functions of not spending so much time thinking about, oh my gosh, my competition's doing this better or that better. Remove that thinking and look at what is it that makes you different? What is it that makes you a purple cow, as they say in your marketplace? That's a reference of Seth Godin, one of my marketing gurus that I love to follow. But what he says is, brown cows you see every day, all the time, but if you see a purple cow, now that's interesting. So what I like to do in working with clients is kind of boil it down. What is your unique selling proposition? How are you a purple cow in your marketplace? What is your brand manifesto? Who are you and what do you stand for? What's your unique selling, or what's your unique value proposition? What message are you sending? Why should people buy from you? And when we can simplify that down, in fact, I've actually created a branding workbook to take you through each of these exercises. So you just get a brand mantra, it's 5 words, and it just boils things down, and that's the exercise. So you've got all this information, but you're funneling it down into just what are the key components and points, and coming from the perspective of what matters to the customer, using language that speaks to them as an individual and how you're going to benefit them. Not necessarily the features of what you offer, but what are the distinct benefits.
Right. I mean, we're at an event where the central theme here is the customer. We can talk about MVPs and vanities, but at the end of the day, it's that connection with the customer, which leads me to a couple of more questions for you. Your approach to social media, as you just mentioned, is different. Mm-hmm. It's more about transparency. It's more about a human connection. We can't ignore social media, obviously, but what's your end result in a social media campaign? When do you know that a campaign that you did on social media was well done?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think depending upon the business and what their goals and objectives are, there's going to be different sets of metrics that are going to matter. So, I like to say, focus on what matters to you based upon those objectives. So, on one level, it could be customer engagement, more app mentions. That's something you can, on Twitter, for example, you can actually quantify that. I try to stay away in general from number of followers or number of likes. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You can sort of get into a trap with that, especially in the sense that you can actually, buy followers if you just wanted to. But it's not authentic, right? So I think you can see something as effective if you increase your follower count organically or authentically. And often I find too is just sort of the overall tone and type of connections that you're getting. You might have more engagement, but it's complaints. Well, you've got to kind of look at that and go, okay, well, what happened there? But as far as a successful campaign online, I think you've got to really take in some metrics and then compare that against the objectives to see, did we reach these certain goals? And if not, okay, let's take a moment, let's step back, let's meditate. No. Take a breath and really look at what happened here. And too, and I will bring in meditation in the sense that I know for me in my own business and in my own practice, it's actually been easier for me, or I'm not quite as hard on myself as I once was, to take a step back, or if I make a mistake, to look at it and go, you know what, this is what happened, here's the problem area. What can I take responsibility for? How can I adjust this? And how can I do it right the next time? And letting it go. That's the other big message in this type of mindfulness work, is letting it go.
That's another one that's so easy to say and enormously challenging to do. So in the near future, we're not going to see Stacy Conlon doing a Facebook campaign that says "like us."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Probably
There's
not.
going to be nothing like that. All right, my last question to you is about you personally.
Sure.
I'm intrigued by your work. I appreciate your work, as I mentioned. What is a typical morning routine like for you?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question, because I just wrote a blog post about it. I have been asked this question by so many people, and I have a routine that it's taken me years to find. And now that I have it, I can't imagine a morning without it. So a typical morning for me looks like waking up about a half an hour to 40 minutes before I need to, quote, do anything or be anywhere. So it starts with drinking a glass of warm lemon water. The benefits I've learned of lemon water on your system in the morning, it's incredibly hydrating. It balances your adrenals. Lemon is very acidic, but once it gets into your body, it actually becomes very basic. So the pH of our stomachs especially becomes more basic. So then as we eat more acidic foods, which is typical throughout the day, it's almost like we have this protective lining on our stomach. It's great for digestion. I mean, I could just go on and on. So that's the first thing I do, get hydrated. And then the second thing that I do is actually in my office. I have a home office, and I have a corner of it set off as my meditation area. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I spent some time in India and was very inspired by that way. And so I have some pillows that I purchased, and just some things to make the area sacred to me, and things that are important, whether it's pictures or sayings or things like that. And so I sit down and often light a candle and sit down on a pillow, and I spend about 10 minutes in meditation. And there's different tools that I use. There's no right or wrong way to meditate. So, and I like to vary it up. There's guided meditations that I have on my iPod that I like to listen to. I also have mala beads from India that I count with a mantra, which can be helpful. I sometimes just count. Other times I have visualizations, especially if I've got a big meeting or a big day. I can kind of put myself in the space of, who do I want to be today, and kind of focus in on that. So about 10 minutes. And what I should mention is that within this time period, a very important rule and discipline for myself is that I do not look at an electronic device, unless it's my iPod for my meditation, but I do not look at my device until after this practice. And the reason for that is that we learn that our subconscious minds are the most impressionable for the first 30 minutes in the morning. And I've been in the position where I've got a project going on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, and I wake up and I go straight to my phone at 7 a.m. and I've got 50 messages and they're all frustrating.
It's already 10 o'clock.
Exactly. And my whole day gets off on the complete wrong foot. I'm stressed. I'm just frustrated, and I can't feel like I can get ahead. So this practice has really helped me by first the lemon water, then sitting down to do a nice meditation. And after I meditate, I actually sit down with my journal. And this has been a harder one to implement because I often just want to skip it and get to work. But what I do is I just commit to writing one sentence a day. If I can write a little more, fine, but no more than a page, a sentence. And one practice I've been adopting a lot lately in a book that I read was about writing your intention for the day. And it isn't so much about what your to-do list, it's more about who do I want to be today? So for example, it might say, I want to be loving. I want to be focused. I want to be grounded. So say that's what I have for the day. Put that aside, have breakfast, take a shower, get ready, start working. What I've found in doing that is at the end of the day, I'm a really big believer too in looking back at my journal to actually be able to measure and track my own progress. On the days that I do it, I have a much in many cases, I am manifesting those feelings that I wrote down in the morning than when I don't do it. And it's a small, 30 minutes may sound like a lot, but in the long term, it has completely changed the trajectory of my day-to-day life. And it takes 21 days to build a habit. I'm past that now, and it's like if I don't do it, there's something missing.
Well, I think by the sheer size of the people this morning that were attuned to what you were doing, for anyone watching or listening, if you've never done it, I just invite you to visit Stacy's website. I invite you to just try it for 10 minutes or even 5 minutes. And whether it becomes a habit or not, it's not going to create magic, but it is going to help. So where can they go to learn more? You've got several websites,
Sure.
yours personally and then the business.
I do. Well, actually, for Lean Startup attendees, I created a special landing page and a special download for a 3-minute guided meditation. So it's perfect for sitting at your desk when you need 3 minutes just to kind of peace out and get reconnected. So I like to keep it real short. It's not a lot of time commitment. But if you go to my website, which is www.thezengirl.com/the Lean Startup. So zengirl.com/the Lean Startup. You'll be able to download a guided meditation that you can put on your iPod and listen to it in the car or at work or however serves you.
We'll have the link more to come.
Thank you. Thank you so much.